I'm NOCLAR, and this is the IssuesWatch podcast. Hello, and welcome to the IssuesWatch podcast. I'm Brad Muniz, your host for the bi-weekly accounting and auditing episodes. I'm an assurance principal at Clifton Larson Allen. This episode qualifies for NanoCPE credit. If you're interested in earning CPE credit for this episode, hit the pause button now and head over to njcpa.org/nano to find out how. A quick disclaimer, the views and statements expressed herein are my own and not necessarily those of NJCPA or CLA. Okay, so I'm going to go over a topic today that we've gone over a few times before. Frank and I have mentioned over the past few years in this episode, in our ethics session, and it's NOCLAR. Now, I want to talk about some AICPA recent guidance that's come out, and then something about the PCAOB. Now, I say earlier on about the views and statements expressed here are my own. I say that really with emphasis now because I may make some comments or may make some comments that other people have made at a session, and they shouldn't be taken as fact or anything. That's just our opinion on this. So in February 2022, yes, I am going 2 years back, the Professional Ethics Executive Committee, PEAC, of the AICPA issues an interpretation on NOCLAR. Okay? Now, you've heard me say NOCLAR many, many times. You've heard Frank say NOCLAR. What is NOCLAR? NOCLAR is noncompliance with laws or regulations. So they're requiring practitioners and even those in industry. So this doesn't just relate to auditors. You're going to hear me make me a lot of comments about auditors, but this doesn't just relate to auditors. This also relates to those in industry. So NOCLAR is acts of omission or commission, intentional, unintentional, that are contrary to prevailing laws and regulations and are committed by a client or an employer, by those charged with governance, by management, or by an individual working or under the direction of the client or the employer. Okay? When a member encounters a known or suspected NOCLAR, he or she should alert the appropriate parties to enable the client's or employing organization's management and those charged with governance to rectify and mitigate the effects of or deter the commission of the NOCLAR. Okay, this is similar to illegal acts that we've had before, but now they're specifically focusing on laws and regulations. Coincident with that coming out, in June of 2022, Statement on Auditing Standard number 147, inquiries of predecessor auditor regarding fraud and noncompliance with laws and regulations. So this came out last year. It came out in June of 22, was effective last year, and it requires the auditor, once management authorizes the predecessor auditor to respond to inquiries from the successor auditor, to inquire the predecessor auditor, identify any suspected fraud or matters regarding NOCLAR. Okay? Now, I had a transition situation with a previous client who was talking to the successor auditor. He's asking me the typical questions that we're going through the process, and I just said to him right out, and I know of no instances of NOCLAR. I know you're required to ask me. So he was very appreciative that I did that. Just get ready if you're a predecessor or successor auditor. Get ready to be asked or to ask about instances of NOCLAR. That's the requirement. That's part of the requirement. The second part of the requirement is after you've obtained the client, then you're required to document your communications with the predecessor auditor and their response regarding NOCLAR. Now, I have seen situations that we've taken on clients that have had fraud instances and NOCLAR instances, and we've had to document. Now, the big part is, and you're going to hear Frank and myself, if you come to the convention, we have an A&A session on the evolution of the audit process, and part of that is client acceptance. And part of your client acceptance process should be considering NOCLAR. And now, if you know an organization has noncompliance with laws and regulations, what is your response or your consideration as an auditor of how you're going to address it? First, you have to find out what the predecessor auditor did too, potentially, and how you're going to address it. So it should be part of your client acceptance process. And if you're in the company if you're working in industry, you should be ready for the auditors to be asking about it. So in the AICPA world, it's still fairly an inquiry process. Okay, you should understand what laws are out there and you should inquire about them. I handled broker-dealers in the past. I knew what laws and regulations they were under, and we had to inquire about them. And if anything came to our attention, we had to address it, as we said before. Now, the PCAOB in 2023 came out with some guidance, and they put it out for comment, and oh boy, was there comment relating to this, and we'll talk about something else. And the standard that they came out with, it's a 149-page document to try and go through. The standard describes the auditor's obligations with respect to illegal acts that have a direct or indirect effect on the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. These obligations fall into three main areas: identification, evaluation, and communication and reporting. It sounds like four, but it's only three areas. What's big about this guidance that's coming out is it's going to require the auditor to do specific work, or not, they're not going to address the work, it's going to require the auditor to do work to evaluate if there is non-compliance with laws and regulations. Instead of just inquiry, or if something comes to your attention, now you're going to be required to do something specifically to investigate and determine if there is non-compliance. So of course you can imagine this created a lot of response letters, and the PCAOB, to their credit, actually had a 6-hour roundtable on March 6th. There were 3 2-hour sessions, that's 6. There were 3 2-hour sessions covering different areas. In attendance were auditors, of course, board members, so board of director members, how they view this responsibility now potentially on the auditor, company board members, that is. Company management was there. There was an attorney present that made comment also. And there were also noted industry experts like D.B. Carmichael, Lynn Turner. They've been in the industry for a very long time, very respected. And as you can imagine, these are my comments, my views from listening out on most of it. As you can imagine, the PCAOB has come out with these rules. They think it should be there. The industry experts feel it should be there, should have been there for a long time. But the auditors, of course, are pushing back on this. And it's gotten, at some point during the session, it got a little bit contentious, it seemed. And, it seems to me, again, my opinion, that they've come out with this rule. And if you're going to play the game, you have to figure out how to play their game. It's like it's Major League Baseball. If they tell you you have to skip to first base, crawl to second base, roll to third base, and hop home, it's their game. They make the rule. You have to figure out how to play the game. So they're coming out with this rule. They're going to probably modify it, hopefully based on some of the comments, but I anticipate something's going to come out. Now, why do I talk about the PCAOB? For a few reasons. One, Frank and I always figure there's a trickle-down effect where whatever happens up there is going to happen to some extent at the AICPA or under the Yellow Book type of standards. What's important for you in industry, guess what? There's a great potential that this is going to increase fees because now they have to investigate a lot more. I want to give you just some of the comments that were made and some of the things that you can percolate on. There's a threshold concern about the indirect impact, okay? Because you remember, I said before, you have to consider the indirect and the direct impact of these laws. The audit goal is supposed to be around reasonable assurance. The laws, and remember I'm talking about laws and regulations, laws essential to the operation of the industry they should be focusing on. They feel that this is a commingling of the fraud concepts into the guidance. Some people feel, and I could understand this, is that we're starting to perform procedures that are outside of our expertise. And in my view, this almost constitutes a legal opinion that you're going to be giving. Are they complying with laws and regulations? Well, why don't we have the lawyers give that commentary? They can give the commentary to us and we could put it somewhere, or the management, not it's us, the management can put it somewhere in the 10K or in the registration statements, somewhere. We'll look over it because we're required to look over those documents anyway. A couple more before I run out of time. It's leaning towards a management function. There's an overemphasis on ASC, yes, ASC 450-20, which is contingencies. It's leaning more towards compliance audits and financial reporting. And then I would have appreciated that there was an attorney that was a commenter, and the attorney started leaning in on that this is pushing back on the attorney-client privilege. And then of course they commented on that they haven't addressed the cost-benefit analysis. The board, the commenter said they haven't addressed cost-benefit analysis. And they really haven't provided the guidance of how it would benefit, by doing this, the cost-wise. Somebody indicated there's actually less registrants since 1996. What they felt due to the overregulation. And then finally, the point that I thought you'd like is it's going to be a significant increase in fees. Now, this is an A&A update, an A&A content, so this is not about fees, but generally you can understand that if you're going to be required to do this type of work, it should expand your fees or increase your fees. And for those that are in industry, that could be the impact on you also. So it was a 6-hour session, and I had less than 10 minutes to give an update on it. If you can find the information about it online. You could Google PCAOB, NOCLAR roundtable, see what you can come up with, or I'll find the link, I'll send it over to you. Shoot me an email. It was very interesting to listen to. It's supposed to have been recorded. I just haven't seen where it is yet, though. In closing, I encourage you to attend the NJCPA Convention and Expo taking place June 11th to the 14th in Atlantic City. It's a great event to network, learn, and have fun. And you can even get your law and ethics requirements for this triennial knocked out. Frank and I will be teaching it in person at the convention. Visit njcpa.org/convention for more details. Lastly, be sure to join the Society's Accounting and Auditing Standards Interest Group. Sign up for free at njcpa.org/groups. Thank you for watching or listening about NOCLAR.